Hey everybody, it's Irene Kaushansky here from Keller Williams Portfolio Realty in Toronto. Thank you very much for joining us for this time blocking and scheduling session. We have quite a few people that have signed up. I know they'll be jumping on as we unfold, and there's a lot going on today on Wednesday, October the 12th. There's a lot of sessions going on simultaneously. So I know that there's quite a few people that wanted to be here that are just going to get the recording. So if you're watching this recorded, or if you're here and you have some questions after the session, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I'm always happy to share what I know and to help you guys out, because this is a big topic. This is a topic that I think a lot of people struggle with. It's certainly not something that I was born with. It's been an evolution for me. And if it was easy for everybody, there wouldn't be hundreds of thousands of books on scheduling and how to be more productive and how to get more out of your time. There's a whole industry that's dedicated to this. So if it was easy and everybody would be doing it with no problem, there wouldn't be an industry for it. So thank you for being here with me. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in real estate for almost 31 years. I'm going to have my anniversary in January. And my husband and business partner, Philip Brown, joined me about 17 years ago. And since then, we've built what I like to call a small and mighty team. We are a total of 3 full-time admin people and 3 full-time agents, myself and 2 agent partners. And my husband, who is the OP of our office, does some sales. But of course, as some of you who are in the portfolio office know, his primary duty is to his 85 agents that count on him every day. So we are blessed in Toronto to have a very high average price point. Last year in 2021, we had a record year for the team, as I think many people did in 2021 towards the end of the pandemic. We had a total of 61 transactions with $73 million in volume. And this year so far in 2022, we have transacted 41 units and 54 million in volume. So we've got Q4 to catch up to our goals and plan to make them productive. Now, when I first put this course together, it was in, 2009, 2010. It was before the one thing came out. It was before the 12-week year came out. It was before I read Getting Things Done. It was before a lot of this stuff was available for the masses. So I kind of cobbled it together. It's evolved since. Of course, since that time, I've had the benefit of following all these amazing authors to help mold my knowledge and to help shape some of the things that I'd like to share with you. So what I'd like to do before we start is to ask all of you a few specific questions and just get a sense perhaps of what some of your biggest challenges are or what you hope to actually get out of this course. What we'll do once we get going is we will start by talking about an annual plan, breaking it down monthly, breaking it down further in 2 weeks, and then looking at things on a day-to-day basis. So perhaps I could open the floor and just find out from some of you either what your biggest challenge is or what you hope to get out of today. That would be really helpful to me. So if you'd like to speak, just unmute because everybody's muted right now.
I could say something.
Pura.
Hi. So staying on course and consistency is something that I'm struggling with. And I know what to do, but I'm not doing what I know to
do. Well, that's one of the challenges, right?
That's right.
You have to go from knowing to doing. I do wonder what it is that keeps us from doing that, right? We all, to a point, know what we're supposed to do. So what is it that prevents us from doing what we know we should do?
So one thing I like to say, and then I go mute, is definitely fear of failure. Definitely fear of failure. Even picking up I mean, I talk forever and I can pick up the phone and talk to people, but I'm scared of them interpreting that as I'm, bugging them or whatever in terms of lead generation and staying connected with my sphere.
Fair enough. Lisa.
So as a solo agent, and it's like, you know what you're supposed to do, and then there's business and life. And as the previous person said, yes, it's the consistency. And I do integrate leverage, right? But then there are disappointments. And I'm so conscious of having a high level of service and consistency. Again, I'm as a solo agent, I'm dependent on that leverage and things outside of the transaction. And then it interferes in the consistency.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
I would second that from Lisa. I actually recently went back into my schedule and revamped it to make it something that I'm actually going to be able to achieve, knowing what I do on a daily basis, and then it's trying to stick to it. And then especially during the lead generation portion, either you get stuck on calls or you're writing emails and texts and calling, and you might go a little long. But then when you're working with your clients as a solo agent, you completely I guess you push it to the side, the lead generation to the side, and then all of a sudden you're having the wave of business.
The ups and downs, yeah, the peaks and valleys for sure. We all experience them. Great. Well, if anything else pops into your head, please feel free to put it on in the chat. If I can't see the chat, just put your hand up and jump into saying something or asking something that might help you. So I'm in the process right now of transitioning our team to the 12-week year. Has anybody read the 12-week year here? Just show of hands. No? It's, oh, Lisa's got it. All right, well, we're just about to implement it in our team. It's just a radically different approach to planning. Instead of doing an annual plan, which is something that we're all used to, cutting it into chunks. So I won't be able to share too much of that with you right now because we haven't implemented it. But there were some amazing lines in that book that I do want to share with you. And I would imagine that there's not a lot that we're going to talk about here that you haven't heard in some way, shape, or form before today. It's the repetition of it, and again, bringing it back to consistency, hearing the same things over and over again until they really stick in your head and move you to action, right? Because we all have to go from knowing to doing. So what most often keeps you from being exceptional is not a lack of time, but the way you allocate the time you have, right? We're all very good at saying, oh, I just don't have enough time. Well, what are the people that are truly, truly productive, that have the same 24 hours in the day as you do, doing that you're not doing? And what makes them so productive and you get stuck in this loop? Effective time use can be the difference between mediocre and great performance. If you are not in control of your time, then you won't be in control of your results. Personal effectiveness is about your intentionality. And this is where the difference comes in between being busy, the busyness, and being in business. Because all of us, whether we're solo agents or we have leverage, we can easily get distracted by things that keep us busy, but that doesn't mean that we're productive or moving towards our goals. And this is really important because, when we talk about distractions and letting things take us off track, a lot of times that's because either we don't have a vision or the vision isn't clear enough. And the vision will guide your choices. The choices that you make on how you spend your time ultimately create your results in life. And You know, there's a saying that we are a sum total of all of our choices. So where you are today is dependent on the choices that you made in the past. Most people make choices that increase their short-term benefits and minimize their short-term costs. But this comes at the cost of long-term benefits. So it's easy to get diverted from the things that we need to do because it's easier. You know, I think the majority of us can say that our biggest challenge is sticking with our lead generation. So first of all, it doesn't make it into our schedules, or when it does, it doesn't get followed because that's painful and you're not getting immediate results. Those are activities that are going to lead to results in the future. So it's easier to do something where you see immediate results as opposed to something that will create long-term benefit and results in the future. And, you know, we mentioned vision at the beginning. Start with why. Simon Sinek has 2 different books on that. Start with why and find your why. By the way, I'm going to give you guys a lot of great titles to look for reading. I'm a huge reader. And, you know, like we talked about at the beginning of the session, there's a lot of books written on this topic. So I'll share some of my favorites with you. Have a clear vision. The clearer your vision is, the easier it will be to stay on track. And that happens especially when things get tough. And, you know, just going back to lead generating, when you're doing the same activities and they're not leading to results, it's difficult to stick with it because you're not seeing the progress. And it's only when you start seeing the progress that it's easier to keep going. One of the golden rules that I'll share with you talks about just that. So let's get into my rules. I'm going to do a quick screen share for you guys here. There we go. So the golden rules of time blocking. I call them the golden rules. Perhaps they're not as golden now as they were 10 years ago, but I still like the words. So planning your life and living your plan. In Keller Williams, we have a course called Bold. Who's been to Bold? I see some hands. Baby, yes. It's living a life by design, not by default. So if you don't plan your life, you will have a plan for you. So whether it's clients that usurp your time or something else that's not business oriented that takes you off track, if you don't have that clear vision and if you haven't created the plan for yourself, it's very, very easy to get off track. And if you want it to happen, you have to make it happen. Has anybody heard of we predict our future by creating it? Anyway, you predict your future by creating it. Again, it goes back to those choices that you make. So part of what we'll talk about in the annual plan is, are you guys, am I still with you? I think my connection is spotty again. I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a little bit. Can you guys still hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for that. If I can get some head nods, it would be helpful. When I'm sharing my screen, I only see a few of you. Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. So another rule, when it's blocked, it's locked. So once you create your schedule, it will be critical for you to keep to those time blocks. So it's one thing to create a schedule, it's another to keep it. And, you know, Pura mentioned consistency. So if you have that schedule created for yourself, you need to follow it. It doesn't do you any good if you don't follow it. When we get into some of the charts that I'll share with you, I'll show you what I do to stay on track. The important thing is to do what you will follow. So it's kind of like lead generating. What is the best form of lead generating? Well, it's what you're going to do. So the same thing goes for scheduling. So whether you have paper, if you have a Remarkable, I'm a Remarkable convert. I love this thing now. If you have Google Calendar, if you use Slack, or whatever it is that you use, just make sure it's going to be something that is going to work for you and that you will stick to. And then if you erase, you must replace. So if something absolutely gets in the way of whatever time block you're working on. So whether it's lead gen or planning for some big event in the future, if you have a time block of something to do and you absolutely have to move it, make sure you put it somewhere else. It's very easy to not replace what you've erased, and then you've lost that time that you've set aside. And then little successes lead to bigger successes. It can be demoralizing if what you're working on isn't working, but as soon as it does, then you have that little extra drive to keep going. Door knocking, for example. You're knocking and knocking and knocking, and nothing's happening and nothing's happening, and you want to quit, and you just go to that one more door, and that last door is when you get the appointment. So keeping yourself motivated when you don't have any success can be a challenge, and that's why the turnover in our industry is so high, because people don't get results in the time frame that they think they should, and they just give up, they quit. Lisa, did you have your hand up from before? Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, let me raise it, take it down, sorry.
All right, awesome, thank you. So benefits of planning, working with a purpose. So again, going back to what is it that you're doing this for? What is your end goal? What do you want it to look like at the end? What are you working this hard for? This is not a business that you can do half-heartedly. It's very difficult. The lows are very low, but the highs are really high. So if you have a big enough vision and a big enough why or purpose or whatever it is you want to call it, if it's strong enough, you will stick to what it is that you want to do. In the 12-week year, they talk about having an emotional connection to your goal. So you're in business and your business is selling houses, but the bottom line is, what do you want to achieve? So what is it that you want to sell more houses for? What is it that you want to earn $100,000, $500,000, $750,000, $1 million, $2 million? What will that get you at the end? Because if you're just working towards a number without having some kind of emotional connection to it or a personal outcome that you're working towards, it's a lot harder to keep going, especially when things get tough, like they've done for this year. Most markets after spring across North America really leveled off and started to show some signs of a more balanced market as opposed to the crazy seller's market that we've been experiencing. But what that turns into is some people feeling like it's slow because it was so busy for such a long time that it was crazy. And I shared this on one of our calls this week. Crazy wasn't normal, crazy was crazy. But now that it's normal, people feel like it's slow. So if you don't have that driving force of what you're going to get up every day for and lead generate for and door knock and call your sphere, do whatever it is that you're doing, if you don't have that goal, it's going to be a lot harder for you to keep going. Becoming more organized and focused. Who has read The One Thing? There we go. Who's read The One Thing? Anybody? I can't see you guys. Okay. This came out to combat the idea of multitasking. Multitasking is a myth. You know, study after study has been proven to show that as soon as you take your attention away from what you're doing, it can take you anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to get back to your thought, even if you're distracted for a fleeting moment. So if you're in the middle of calls and you stop to take an email or respond to an email that has nothing to do with what you're calling about, it could take you that length of time to get back to productivity. So if you haven't read The One Thing, make sure you put it on your list because that will keep you get more focused. And then we talked about success being a motivator, you know, looking back at what you've done that's been successful, it's a lot easier to keep going through everything that you're going through. And one of the things for those of us that are in the James Shaw Pivot Shift Ahead group, we talk about making sure that we have time to recharge. And that's the time that it's easier to go back to look at what you've been doing and get a better sense of how far you've come. It's really easy when you're in the middle of it and you're like blinkers down or head down, blinkers on. It's easy to lose sight of how far you've come. And when you take that break, when you stop working 7 days a week, 30 days a month, when you implement the 137 program that we've been talking about in our group, 1 full day a month, 1 full day a week off, 3 days a month, and 7 days a quarter. Now, can you guys imagine you in real estate, if you took that kind of time off, what it might mean for you and your productivity? Most of you don't know, because you just keep working and working and working and working. And that doesn't lead to productivity. Another book here, The Powerful Engagement. So this book is a little bit long and tedious to read, but it's not as much fun as some of the other books, but it's really, really good for helping you understand that it's not just working harder that's going to make you more productive. It's making sure that you take recovery, you take those breaks like a professional athlete that needs the recovery time to come back even stronger. So if you don't have that kind of time off built into your schedule, make sure that you actually put it in. And the other thing that I would recommend, and this was a great tip that I heard on the Empire Building podcast. We all have to-do lists. It's great when we can mark things off as done, but what about having a to-don't list? Right, for those of you that are solo agents, maybe I can just stop screen sharing for just a moment. For those of you that are solo agents, if you are looking to get some leverage and to make sure that you have some help, keep a running things that you shouldn't be doing that aren't productive for you. Make sure that you keep track of the things that you do that are productive. All right. Lisa, I think, is the only one that's moving for me. Are you guys all, can you hear me? Can I get some, can I get some nods?
Most of the time we can hear you. Sometimes you are going out, but most of the time we can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah.
So Carolyn asked to provide an example. Sorry?
Sorry, you cut out. Did you say keep a list of aren't doing and are doing?
Yeah, to don't. You know how we have a to-do list? How about a to-don't list? So
Okay.
not to do. Right, Carolyn, were you asking for an example of something not to do? Okay, perhaps that's what Carolyn is asking about. Yes. Guys, listen, I'm really sorry about this. I'll make sure that if the quality really degrades, that we'll redo this session for those of you that want to attend. So to don't. You know what, it's going to depend. If you're a single agent, Carolyn, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because you are everything. You are the, what do they call it? The cook, the chief, the whatever it is. You're doing absolutely everything. Yes, chief cook and bottle washer. That's it. Yes. Thank you.
Well,
for
the
that.
reason why,
so if you start,
no, I was saying the reason why I asked about the don't list is because even though I'm a solo agent, eventually in our lives, we want to go to the part where we get leverage. But if you don't know what the don'ts are, we kind of hold on too tight and don't know when to let it go. So that's why I said the examples would be that checklist when we finally get there to say, okay, we can get this off of our plate because we shouldn't do it because. Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say the first thing to get off your list is transaction management, right? Because that's something that's simple enough to pass off to somebody, and it's a whole group of activities. All right, Carolyn, you look like you're back for me. And now you're on mute. So I can see that you're talking, but you're on mute.
I said you was freezing a little bit for me, but it came in with a lag.
Right. So transaction management, single agent transaction management will be the first thing that I would offload. Right. Anybody else have any questions about that we've covered? Questions that you may have heard or material that you may have heard where I didn't cut out? All right, we'll move on then. Let's move on to our annual plan. So we want to start with your annual plan. I really like to do a 12-month at a glance, which I'll show you. I've color coded mine so that it's a much better way to see vacation time and productive time and learning time. Your monthly 411s, for those of us in Keller Williams, that's an easy way to break down a whole month into individual weeks. We've moved to a Google Calendar for the whole team, which helps us see what everybody's doing, and then daily planning and priority charts. And I'm going to show you my PDFs as well as what I've put into my Remarkable. So on your annual calendar, you want to put in your family time first. You want to make sure that you get your vacations in, because if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist, right? So you want to make sure to plan your holidays to a point where you can actually work between holidays. You know, that was really difficult to do in COVID, obviously, because we were traveling so little. And in order to have a vacation, staycations really weren't cutting it. And I got to tell you, in 2022, I think our family really made up for the lack of travel over the previous 2.5 years or 2 years. We started again at the beginning of this year. And I'm at a point now where I really do feel like I'm working between vacations. And I can tell you, there is nothing that lights a fire under your butt than knowing you have a vacation planned. And if you do those regularly enough, let's say it's not 7 days every quarter. I think that's something we can aspire to. But let's say at least initially you put in 4 days every quarter. You have that vacation planned. I mean, you guys know in the past, whenever you had a vacation booked, you were so productive. What made you so productive? Well, because you knew you only had a certain length of time to do everything that you needed to do. Now, can you imagine taking that energy and putting it into every single week because you know that you have a vacation coming up? I tell you, it's been a really big motivator. Personal time for me, about a year before COVID, I had to put in a full day off of real estate every single week because I was burning out. Right? I mean, the thing is, we have great leverage and we have a great team, but me being the kind of person that I am, I just take on more things and I do more stuff. And you cannot do that for a very long time because you will burn out and you'll start resenting the business. So if there's anything I can suggest you to do, start putting in a regular time off block into every single week. Even if it's not a whole day, even if it's a half day, again, you know that you've got that time coming up and it'll give you more of the motivator to work harder the rest of the week. Now, don't put in too much time off, right? Because then you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and you're not doing the things that are going to get you to your business goals. Business goals, your professional training, whether it's mega camp, family reunion, other training events that you want to attend, what your dollar volume is or number of units. I can tell you focusing on a number of units is something that's easier to control. Markets go up, markets go down. If, as we've seen in the last few years, the average prices have gone up so much in the majority of markets that it's easy it's easier to become complacent. So when your average prices are climbing, it's easier to hide in the volume when really you should be focusing on your units because that's something that you can control. And then you're split between buyers and sellers depending on how your business runs. So don't get too bogged down in this chart. This is really what I've been using in the past to help me remember to take time off. Now what we do at usually around November, because that's business planning time, is we will just put our holidays right on the calendar. I have a giant whiteboard that's hanging in one of our rooms where we just write all of our vacations, all of our training events, so that it's right there. But as a start, this is just a simple Excel chart, and you can just color. For me, red was work time, yellow was time off, green was learning, so educational events, and blue or purple was admin time. So if you see here, down here below in December, I really have, for the last few years, been doing my best to take a good chunk of December off. Now, for me, off means I'm not lead generating. It doesn't mean I'm not here. It doesn't mean I'm on vacation. It's just a time for me to catch up on all of my projects that maybe I didn't have a chance to do throughout the year. Any questions about that so far? No, we're rock and rolling? All right. So 411s, for those of us in Keller Williams, we know that this is 1 year, 1 month, 4 weeks. So there are so many different incarnations of this. You don't have to use this particular one. I've started to really break down my own job goals, my business goals, which is what we want for the team, my own personal financial goals for me and my family, and then my personal goals. See, we've got the 4 vacation weeks a year. That's really a goal for me. Monthly massages has been a big thing for me. I work out a lot and my body needs that massage. Haven't quite done the monthly this year, but it's been pretty close. And one of my personal goals has been getting fluent in Spanish. And I've finally took the steps to do this by putting in a weekly tutoring session on Saturday mornings for my Spanish. So you have this in front of you. You want to visit this a lot. You want to visit it at least once a week when you look at your weekly goals, to keep those annual goals at the forefront. And then you break down what your monthly goals will be to help you get to all of these annual goals. Who uses a 411 right now? Can I see a show of hands? Nobody? Oh my goodness. Oh guys, it's the best way to stay on track because you're visiting. Sorry?
I try. It's the consistency for me.
There is no try. There is only do or do not.
So getting there.
So Carolyn, what keeps you from not following it? Because you've already gone to the length of actually putting it together. So what keeps you from actually following it?
Consistency. A lot of things. That's kind of why I put the red light, green light. It gets started, then it stops, then it starts, then it stops. And it's because I'm still working on protecting the bunker, for the time, putting those boundaries. And it's a combination of family and it's a combination of me. And it's me who have to stop it. So it's back to, what you need to do is just doing it.
Gotta do it. Yeah, and you know what? It's training your family too. For the longest time, I mean, my kids are 16 and 20 now, so it doesn't work very well with them. But when my kids were a little bit younger and I had my December call marathon, which I did, and I still do religiously every year between Christmas and New Year's, I just sit and I close my door and I'm on the phone for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. I had a little Post-it note. Well, I had a big Post-it note. It was about this big, and it said, "Do not interrupt unless you're bleeding." And I would put it on the door. And when the kids were younger, it worked. When they got a little bit older, it's like, "Yeah, Mom, can I have?" Anyway, but it's training your family. And, whether it's young kids, old kids, spouse, whoever it is that's in your house, pets, you can't train pets that well. But you do need to have that buy-in. That's the first thing that they teach you in BOLD is take your commitment and bring it to your family and have their buy-in to help you do what you need to do. So first you have to have your own personal commitment to that goal. And then you have to, build your bunker, like they say in the one thing, and train the people around you to let you keep that commitment to yourself. Yeah, it's not easy. Pira? You're on mute.
Yes, I can't remember where can I find 411 structure?
Oh, you can find it in your MyKW. I'm pretty sure on the portfolio website in the agent resources, we have it there as well.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
And if
Thank
not,
you.
you can get it from Teresa, or so for any of you, you can get it from your OP or TL
Perfect.
or your agent.
Thank you. Thank you. That's perfect. Thanks.
Anybody else?
So I like the 411 structure. My problem is like I got my iPad and I put it and I type it all up, and then I'm like a planner, you know, I put it in my planners, I try different planners, and then I really like John Acuff. I don't know how many of you guys have been doing John Acuff with James Shaw and Pivot or Inspire. Anyways, I was watching his last bravery challenge, and he has this big whiteboard with post-it notes on it, and I had this big aha. I went, oh, that's when I did 411 so good. Is I think I have a little bit of ADD like he does. And when my 411 was on post-it notes on a big planner and I actually could move them around, I did better instead of putting it in a little structure. And like, and behind me, I have like one of those boards where I have like all my stuff written out and like what the property is and the value. And I hate that. I never updated. It makes me, I don't like it. And then I went, when I put them all on post-it notes and I moved them around physically, I did better. And I went, I need to go back to that. So when my 411 was actually a post-it note that I moved around to the week and the month, and I physically made it something I did with it, I did better. So the structure, Pierre, I'm going to say, like, here's the structure of the 411, but it might not be the piece of paper that you find on Connect or the virtual one you find on Connect. You might need to adapt it to your learning style or your style so that you actually use it, you know, because you can write it all up, but then if you stick it in a book and you never look at it again, which, you know, I have it in the back of my planner, but if I never go look at my planner and I forget, oh, what was my thing this week? So that's just my little 2 cents.
And Carol, that's such a great example of what I said at the beginning. You need to do whatever's going to work for you. So whether it's paper, digital, on the wall, on a post-it note, as long as you follow it, as long as it's created for you and you know where everything is and what it's supposed to do. This book here, Getting Things Done by David Allen, is also really, really good. So I've got little post-it notes myself on the important parts of the book for me. This is really good because it's very practical. And his system is really, really simple. Like, it is actual physical inboxes, because he also talks about us getting lost in technology. So it's so easy to get lost in today's gadget, today's website, today's, you know, whatever it is, the shining object of the moment. It's really easy to get lost in it to the detriment of your productivity. So for Carol, post-it notes work. I'm going to show you. This is my 411. It's paper, right? Actually, I can see it a little bit there. It's the same thing that I showed you on screen. I have this printed out and it's sitting on the corner of my desk. So every week at the end of the week, when I start my planning for Monday, I reference it. I look at what we've done, what I've done, what we've done as a team, and I look at what needs to be done next. For me, this works. I have a Google Calendar. I showed you my Remarkable. I'll show you some of the charts that I use in my Remarkable. But I've got this like combination of everything that works for me. It might not work for you. You've got to find whatever it is that works for you that you will follow, because it doesn't mean, it doesn't matter what kind of system you have if you don't follow it, right? Like, what's the point? Yeah, best way to get things done is just to write it down. Yeah, especially as we get older, right, Carol? Cannot rely on our memory. Absolutely. Let me just get back to our chart here. So Hold on just a second. I forgot to share. There we go. So when do I do it all? My weekly Google Calendar. I'm going to show this to you guys, and I'm going to show you what mine looks like. If I could share the right screen with you. So right now we have a total of 17 members, and each team member has their own color. I've turned those off because I didn't want you guys to glaze over. But this is my calendar. So I still have my workouts in every single morning in my calendar, even though I cannot get through a day without working out. So for me, working out right now is like brushing my teeth. I was sick last week. You can probably still hear it. I'm very grateful that I haven't been coughing all over you. So I had to take a number of days off last week because I wasn't feeling well. I was in Boston for the Luxury Symposium. That took a chunk out of my workouts. I was dying. By Thursday, I was finally able to work out. So I'm very grateful that I've had that built into my habit. I still have it in here though, you know, just so it's in my calendar. I've got my regular Facebook stuff. I've got my pivot calls right in here for us in the Pivot Shift Ahead community. They're all
Colors,
here.
please.
Sorry?
Colors, please.
Colors?
Yes, please.
Well, these are my colors.
I know. I want to see your color coordinated because this is how
Okay.
I do it.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting there. That must have been Simon, I think, right?
It was.
So I have my I've got twice weekly meetings with my sales team. We've got wrap-ups with my admin team. I put my door knocking in. My goal is to be door knocking 3 days a week. If I have to change something, you know, if it pours rain, I'm a fairly fair weather door knocker. No rain, down to -10, up to about plus 28. Anything hotter than that, colder than that, or rain, I am not door knocking. So my goal is to have 3 days a week door knocking. I have it in my calendar, so I'm much less likely to book something in if it's in that calendar for me. And in here, I've got empty space. So listing appointments, buyer appointments. You see, I've got my Spanish lessons here. So all of that is in, and those are my repeating events every week, so that I am not likely to book anything in. See here, I've got these are my lead generating calls 3 days a week. I have one day a week where I'm doing growth calls. And then Fridays typically are planning and admin week, planning and admin days. So I'm not doing any lead generating that day. Okay, Simon, this is for you. So we've got
Thank you.
Bridget's. Now this is coming up in November, so none of my buyer appointments are here. But then we've got Kathy. We've got Nicoletta's schedule. We have a separate listing. We have a separate listing calendar where we have all our listing activities. We've got Nicoletta, we've got Sam, we've got Todd, and then we've got Philip. So this is typically what I'm looking at on a daily basis. But I know what everybody's color is, and then I can easily just turn them off. Right? Solo agents especially, you're not going to be at risk of having this much color in your schedule. I know some agents like to color code their days. So their lead gen is one color, their time off is another color, their family time is another color. So your brain gets used to seeing the same things over and over again, to the point where you don't even have to look again. You know, if it's red, it's going to be lead gen. And if it's yellow, it's got to be your time off or whatever it is. So you're training your brain the same way that you train your body. Colors, please. So your brain, I mean, your brain is a muscle. You either use it or lose it. So you can put it to use and make sure that it works for you, or you can let it run your life. And nobody wants that, right? All right, so that is the weekly. And then I'm going to move into the daily for you. And this is going to help you. Any questions about week? No, just colors? All right. So before I got my Remarkable, the same package of paper that I had for my 411s, I used to walk around with for my daily priorities. It got to be a little bit too much. So I'm very grateful that I've got absolutely everything here. Does anybody else use a Remarkable? No, nobody? Okay, so this is technically the what is it? The promise? The claim. The claim is that this holds 1,785 pages, or I'm sorry, 17,850 pages. I don't think it's quite that much, but it is definitely a great way to reduce paper use and carry around a little thing instead of a big folio. Now, I have to admit, Simon, who was here last week, he's got a great little folio that's much smaller and it keeps everything. Simon, I still want to find out what that is because I think I'd like to get one of those. But I think my Remarkable.
I forgot. I forgot because I didn't put it in my calendar as a reminder.
Touche. All right, so I'll share with you. My daily sheets. So again, don't get too overwhelmed with this. Just use it as a guide to help you create whatever works for you. If this is something that you guys want, I'm happy to send you the Excel sheets that we used to create this. So I have one for four days a week, Monday through Thursday. And then I have 3 different ones for Fridays: a regular Friday, first of the month Friday, and the last of the month Friday. So what I have here is, I used to call this ABC, but that didn't have longevity. So I have my daily big rocks. I have what I want to discuss with the sales team. On the Monday, we have the wrap up from the weekend. So we talk about any transactions that got done last week. We talk about what's going on with our current clients. And I'm sorry, I know this is a little bit small, but again, you just want to get the essence of it. What's coming up with future listings, what future buyers we have, what is the marketing that we're working on. We have a buyer social media post that we do weekly. What are our appointments that are coming up that the admin team needs to be aware of and get us prepared for. And what do we have going on with listings? And then Philip has a little section here on things that I need to talk about with him, because of course he deserves his own little section. And then there's one for every day of the week. And for Fridays, I have a regular Friday. So because I don't lead generate on Fridays, this is more of a to-do list. And it's a combination of everything that I had on my Monday through Thursday list that didn't get done. So it gets moved over to Friday. And then the first Friday of the month, I have a few other things here, like working with my my admin on our expenses. So they need the checks and visa. And then last Friday of the month, I help our office with the education calendar, and I start my next month's 411. So this is also a really great way, especially on Fridays, to keep track of what you did during the week and what you didn't do during the week, and what I have to pay attention to. So it's a really good way to wrap up the week and see if there's something that didn't get done, does it get moved on to the next week? What I also want to share with you on the organizing is the Remarkable Daily Organizer package, which is really, really great. I haven't yet adopted it for all of my stuff, but it essentially takes everything from annual to quarterly to monthly to weekly to daily, and this is the 1,785 pages. So this is a PDF document that's sold by My Deep Guide. It's a gentleman out of Norway that has really, really great training sessions on all things technical. It's where I learned how to use the Remarkable. I don't get paid for this, by the way. I do love the Remarkable, though. It is a pretty high learning curve. I found it a high learning curve because it's a very different kind of system. So this is one of the guys on YouTube that I found that has really, really great training videos on all of those systems. It's where I learned how to use the Remarkable for myself, and it's where I got this program, which is fantastic. So it just downloads into the Remarkable. The Remarkable pulls in PDF, cannot pull any live documents. Sorry, Carol, did you want to say something?
What's his name again?
His name, it's called My Deep Guide. mydeepguide.com. I'll share it in the chat
Thanks.
afterward. Yeah, very, very easy to understand. And this is a live document. So when you download that into the Remarkable, and he has a version for iPad and a couple of other tablets that I can't remember, but he's customized a version of this for all of those platforms. And it's great. It's really, really great, because once you download this into whatever device you're using, it's a live document, so you can write on it. So I essentially open up my Remarkable, pull this up, and I can write on it, and it erases. And then it syncs with my desktop and my laptop. So it's just a really great way to have everything all together and reduce your paper, because I love to reduce paper. So there's the annual, then he breaks down each quarter into each week of each year. And keep in mind, you don't have to use all of this, right? It's available to you. You just want to use what's going to be useful for you. If you don't need quarterly planning, then you don't use this. You can just skip right to monthly or weekly or daily. So he's got the quarters, then he moves into monthly. And I mean, I'm not going to be able to go through everything with you. You're gonna glaze over and be bored. But it essentially just goes through each section of time. And here, when it's on your device, you can actually click on it and go from monthly back to quarterly, back to annually, back to weekly. So it's a really, really great way to keep track of all your thoughts and all your notes if you like to write. So when I think, I like to write. When I take notes, I like to type. And for any of you that have sat with me in any training sessions, you know that I type really loud, but I type fast and I type great notes. But when I need to think, I really like to write. That's why, thanks, Carol. That's why I like this kind of platform, because for me, it helps me to think when I write as opposed to type. I type fast so that I can review later, but for me, writing equates to thinking. So for me, it really, really helps. Is there anybody else that has that kind of distinction, or am I just weird? Pira?
You're not weird.
You're not weird. I like colors too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Well,
drawing.
that kind of takes us, you know, we went from annual to monthly to weekly to daily. I'm hoping that we sort of, I know, put things in perspective for you a little bit. We have a few minutes left. Any questions or things that maybe you learned that you can share? Because if you learned it, maybe somebody else did as well.
No, I really appreciate this. This is great. I'm going to be teaching a market center about GPS and 411. So you've really brought some things into, like, back into my head and some new ideas. So I might call you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that you can share, anything that's sort of like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that before.
I'm really interested in your thoughts about, like, this system, because I think it's really important that I like that you use the same color for your calendar instead of the different colors, because I think when I saw your calendar, it felt calming to me. And normally my calendar makes me feel crazy when I look at it.
That's why I picked blue.
And I went, wait, that feels calming to me. And maybe that one's, I'm gonna go rethink my calendar colors. I think maybe that might be the reason why I feel so upset when I look at my calendar, because there's too many colors and they're all me.
Ah, okay. Oh, okay. So you're the opposite. You're like, you got too many.
Exactly. And I have every activity is a different color and I feel fractured.
Right.
That was like a big
bit.
aha.
Cool.
And I can turn stuff off. Yeah. So I just went, because I have like the training calendar and this calendar, but a lot of those colors are me. I just have different colors. And when I saw, like, this is what you're in charge of and it's all one color, that was a real big aha for me. Thank you. Cool.
Oh, my pleasure. Pira.
Oh, I was just gonna suggest if you can give us some homework. Because it's these things are very easy to you. Like I've been working on my calendar for the past probably 3 or 4 years, and still it's not, you know, it's not like yours. It doesn't help as much. So I'm thinking say, okay, so why don't you put in like time block for your showings and whatnot? Because if somebody calls me in the middle of the night, can you show me this place? I'll go.
So my suggestion on that would be for us to have a conversation separately, Pira, just
Okay,
because
all
I
right.
think everybody here is at a different stage,
Okay.
and giving everybody the same homework, especially since we don't actually have another follow-up to this, might be challenging. So I'll definitely be happy to help you with that. But maybe I can, is there any other ahas before we, because I will have to jump off for another session. Carolyn?
I was just gonna say that by seeing your schedule, just the order of it is helpful. I mean, because I know they say put everything in the schedule. And I definitely know about putting the vacations and so forth. But for me, sometimes seeing an example, like I do like that you selected 3 days to door knock and not that same time slot for everything. The fact that you used your Fridays as that, you know, catch up, follow up, just seeing a different format of how it's done. I've seen different ones, but I think what I like about the way yours is structured, it gives you, for lack of a better word, a little bit more breathing room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think that's a really great distinction. Simon and I had a conversation about this last week. It's like we cannot put so much in our schedule that we get overwhelmed and we don't do it. Right? Because if it's something that needs to work for you, you still, you know, we are human beings, we are not human doings. And if we try and do too much, we're not going to be.
Right. Because I didn't even see your Saturday and Sunday, granted, you know, I just blanket. But either way, I just like the fact that, like I said, you could breathe.
Yeah, awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. I put my email in the chat. Find me on Facebook if we're not friends yet. And I'll look forward to hearing from you and your successes in this challenging and very exciting type of activity that can help you live your best life. Okay, thanks for tuning in,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, everyone.